guys, welcome back to my channel. I am back today with a video for Eating Disorders Awareness Week, which is this week when this goes up. And it is about why I have stopped focusing on recovery with my eating disorder, which at the sort of, I suppose with the title it's going to sound a bit weird, but I'm going to obviously explain that to you in this video. So last year I put a video up which was basically my eating disorder story. I'll link it down below so you can go back and watch that first if you want to, because then perhaps this will make more sense. So I'm not going to go through my whole story again because you can see that in that video, but I will, I suppose, go through little parts of my story to try and explain my where I am now and stuff. I'm also going to leave some links down below for support, so if you're watching this and you feel like you need some support with an eating disorder or any other kind of mental health problem, have a look in the description bar below, because I'm going to add Beat, who are the UK's biggest eating disorder charity, and I'll pop Mind and the Samaritans and things like that in there as well, just so that you've got some places to go if you feel like you need some support. Because obviously I just want to kind of say this from the outset, that these are only my opinions, these are my experiences, and they're not going to be the same opinions and experiences that everyone else has, and also they are in no way, it should replace any kind of support you can get from a doctor. So I just want to say that before I start, so that I don't get any backlash from any of that kind of thing. You can also go and have a look over on my blog, which again I'll link in the description bar. So the moral of this story is read the description bar. I'm going to do, there should be a couple of posts going up on my blog this week about eating disorders. One, I am going to write about my story, because the last time I did that was 4 years ago, so I'm going to redo that and sort that out. And then I'm also going to do a post to go with this video, just writing about my thoughts and why I no longer focus on recovery or being recovered. So yeah, grab yourself a cup of tea, because this could be a long one. I haven't got any notes or plans about what exactly I'm going to say, so be prepared for some rambling, but hopefully it will help someone and just give you a bit more insight into recovering from an eating disorder, I guess. So yeah, grab a cup of tea. I haven't got a cup of tea, but I have got my Fortisip, which is just, yeah, great, just what I want. Just to say, I'm not taking these anymore for my eating disorder. This is for my digestive problems. But yeah, I've got my Fortisip. You grab a cup of tea, which is going to be much nicer, and let's get started. So I just want to start with a little summary of my eating disorder journey. As I said, I'm not going to go into it in great detail, or we'll be here all day. But basically, I first developed an eating disorder at around the age of 15, although if you read my blog post, you'll kind of understand that there were a lot of things that went on before that, which in retrospect kind of were the start of eating disorder thoughts and feelings. But it wasn't until I was 15 that it was kind of, I wouldn't say even recognised, just that I realised I had a problem and that other people around me could see that I was having a problem. It related a lot to my physical health and my kind of loss of control of, my body and everything. So yeah, I started to have trouble with food, I started to lose weight, and part of that was physical, but part of that was turning into an eating disorder as well. When I was 17, I was admitted to an adolescent psychiatric hospital, mostly for depression at the time, but then as things went on, I then had sort of help from them with my eating disorder as well. If you'd like to kind of know more about being in an adolescent psychiatric unit, feel free to let me know in the comments, because I'm more than happy to make videos about that kind of thing as well. So yeah, I was in that psychiatric unit. I was there for about 7.5 to 8 months, which in retrospect is quite a long time, and yeah, I guess it felt like a long time. And I had some help with my eating disorder, but not a lot, and I don't think not what I needed, basically. When I came out of there, I kind of managed for a few years. Things were very like up and down, but I kept myself out of hospital. I found things to focus on in my life that weren't my eating disorder, and although it was still very difficult, I kind of sailed along a bit. And then in 2012 I had a lot of problems with my physical health again, like things really flared up. If you don't know, I've got Ehlers-Danlos syndrome, but at that point I hadn't got a diagnosis. So a lot of things were flaring up with my physical health, and part of my physical health problems are my digestive problems. So these got a lot worse. I started losing a lot of weight again, and this triggered off my eating disorder again. And it kind of got to like the middle of 2012, and because I'd got so unwell, I was admitted to just a general hospital to be tube fed for a bit. At the time it wasn't a psychiatric admission or anything like that, it was just because of my digestive problems getting so bad. I couldn't eat, so I was tube fed for a while, and it did help with my digestive problems, but my eating disorder problems were still there. I was still losing weight, and that had kind of fed in, I suppose, to my eating disorder. So when my tube came out, and there's a big story about it which I've written in more depth on my blog. Basically, I wasn't being diagnosed with anything physical. They said they couldn't find anything wrong with me, and it kind of all just spiraled, and I ended up stopping eating for quite a bit. And that led me to be sectioned. So I then went into an adult psychiatric hospital, which was very different from the adolescent one. And again, if you want to hear more about that and about being sectioned, let me know, and I will happily talk about that as well. So yeah, I was sectioned for a while and in hospital for quite a while, and once I'd kind of got to a place where I was a little bit more stable, I was allowed to come home and became a day patient at an eating disorder service, which was also really hard work. And if you want to hear more about that, like with anything in this video, if there's like something specific you want to know more about, let me know, and I will happily do another video or a blog post or something like that. So yeah, I was then a day patient for, I don't even know how long, it was quite a while, and sort of put on some weight, and I don't know, got to the point, I suppose, when my weight was normal, and so people start to see you as being recovered, when in reality, like, putting on the weight is like the beginning. There's so much more, like actually sorting out what is going on in your head, but that isn't recognised even in like the NHS, because there's so like little funding and there's so few spaces for people. When you kind of get to a normal weight, you are basically seen as recovered. So I was discharged as a day patient. I was still an outpatient for a while. I saw a psychologist and saw her for quite a while, but again then I kind of lost that and was completely discharged from the service. Didn't feel ready at all. Still felt like I really needed some help and support, because I found, like, as I went through different stages of my eating disorder, so you know, when I was very underweight, I wasn't ready to be doing mental health like work, psychological sort of stuff. I just needed to focus on putting some weight on. Once I'd put the weight on, I then had to get my head around like being a healthy weight and everything that came with that. And it was only when I'd sort of been at a healthy weight for quite a while that I felt, I don't know, I suppose I had different feelings and felt ready to sort of start addressing actually why my eating disorder had happened and like what was triggering it and causing it and stuff. But that's when I lost the help. So I've never really had any help with any of that kind of stuff. And that kind of brings me up to where I am today, I suppose. And I'm doing okay. Like, I manage my weight as much as I can with having digestive problems. I mean, that's just another added complication for which there is no support, you know, for like the mental health side of digestive problems when you've got an eating disorder. So I've kind of had to manage it myself, and yeah, I just, at the moment, I don't know, I guess I'm plodding along. Sometimes I really struggle with my eating disorder, and other times I can kind of manage it a bit better and yeah, kind of get along with it. But yeah, that's kind of where I want to kind of bring you up to, so that I can now talk about like my thoughts on recovery and why I don't necessarily look at being recovered anymore. So for a long time, like during my eating disorder treatment, there was like a lot of talk about being in recovery or being recovered from an eating disorder, or even like being fixed from your eating disorder. And at the time, I guess it was kind of something that I was like maybe aspiring to, and I thought, oh, you know, one day I will be recovered and I'll be fixed and everything will be great. And yeah, I guess I had this idea in my head of like what recovery was, and it was quite a sort of like this amazing place of like, you know, never having any worries about my weight again, like enjoying all the food again and not like, yeah, not thinking about it. And yeah, maybe for a little bit of time that was a useful thing to have, because it gave me something that I was kind of trying to aim for, and it gave me reasons to want to recover and things like that. But quite quickly it became something that wasn't helpful at all. And I think that's because for me, that state that I talked about doesn't exist for a lot of people. I mean, yeah, like don't get me wrong, I know there are some people who do get to that point of being recovered, whatever you want to call it, who, whether honestly or not, do say that they don't think about their weight anymore, they don't think about food like in that way anymore, and they feel like their eating disorder is completely gone, which is brilliant. And you know, like if that's what they're able to get to, then that's fantastic. But certainly for me, that isn't a point that I've ever managed to get to. You know, I'm 29 now, I've had problems with food for most of my life, and I still don't feel that I am in that place. And to me, for a long time, that made me feel like a failure. You know, I am recovered in as much as I am managing my weight, but I still get all the eating disorder thoughts. I still weigh myself, not nearly as much as I did, but I still weigh myself, and I still like struggle with like I struggle with doing that. But if I didn't weigh myself, I would struggle with not weighing myself. But yeah, like every time I see the numbers, I either get anxiety because it's gone up, or I get that kind of little buzz that you get if it's gone down, and I have to try really hard not to let that influence me. I guess, I don't know, I'm probably not in control still. Like there is part of the eating disorder that is still in control, but I kind of feel like I've got to the point where this is maybe as good as it's gonna get. And I know that feels and sounds really negative, but I'm not trying to like get this over in a negative way, because for me, stopping like focusing on being recovered has actually been quite a positive thing. Because I think, yeah, for a long time, like I was aspiring to like get to this place of like amazingness, and so I felt like a failure all the time, because I felt, you know, no matter how hard I tried, I was still struggling with my thoughts and my weight and like my thoughts around food and things like that. And you know, years and years went by and I didn't feel like I was making any progress. And I think that's because I was focusing on something that perhaps for me isn't gonna happen. And I think that is okay. Like I think I kind of now, I suppose I see my journey as a journey rather than having an end point. And for me, if I can manage my weight, and if I can, you know, go out and maybe enjoy a meal without like looking up calories and worrying about food and all that kind of stuff, and I can, yeah, I will still have thoughts of like, oh, I'm feeling a bit anxious because I think if I eat that, like, am I gonna put on weight? But if I can like fight against that and still go out and have that meal, then for me, I think that is a good thing to, you know, it's a good place to be. Yes, I'm not going out and eating like with no thoughts about like my weight and food and all that kind of thing. And I think part of that is because of my digestive problems, because they cause me so many problems. I'm always gonna have like worries around eating, even if it's not to do with my weight. But stopping focusing on being recovered has been for me quite a freeing experience, I think. I feel like I'm not having to work towards something that for me feels unachievable anymore. So I'm not beating myself up all the time for not getting to that point. And I don't know, it just gives me a bit more headspace to think about other things. Yet, you know, if I have a bad day, that's a bad day, and I write it off as a bad day and start again tomorrow. I don't look at it as like a massive relapse or anything like that. And this might not work for everybody. That, you know, I'm not doing this video to tell everybody that this is how you should be, because I think recovering from an eating disorder, however you do it, there's so, you know, everybody's different. And yeah, so this is just my experiences really. And yeah, I mean, to some extent, like there is recovery in that there's recovery of your weight to a, you know, a good weight. There's recovery from using certain behaviours. So, you know, I had quite a big problem with bulimia, you know, like making myself sick and things like that. So the fact that I don't do that now is sort of recovery in some point. I'm talking more, I think, about like recovery in terms of my thoughts. Obviously it is important to try and stop behaviours and to try and get yourself to a healthy weight and a healthy, you know, making sure your body is healthy, but that's only like half the story. And, you know, yeah, those things are important for keeping your overall health healthy, but obviously, you know, your mental health is a complete other thing. And for some people, working towards recovery and being recovered, maybe that helps you, and that's absolutely fine as well. But for me, it just didn't. And perhaps that's why I struggled so much with eating disorder treatment, because the focus was on being recovered mainly through your weight, and there was very little, like, they didn't look at thoughts a huge amount. There just wasn't time with like the amount of people that they had to see. So yeah, I put a lot of pressure on myself to never have an eating disorder again, and to never have my, you know, thoughts around food and things like that. Whereas now I don't tend to be beating myself up anymore. Like, if I have a day when I just like struggle to eat, like because of my mental health, yeah, it is just another day and I can start again tomorrow. I don't know how I've got to this point. I wish I could kind of give you some advice. Although, to be honest, like, I don't think I'm at a point where I can really give advice, because I still struggle. But for me, like, the biggest thing has been letting go of that pressure to be recovered. And kind of just accepting, I think, that food and weight and everything to do with it is always going to be one of my, like, difficult points. Yeah, and like, we all have them. We all have things that we struggle with, and I think I've just kind of accepted that this is one of mine, and as long as I can feel like I'm in control of it most of the time, like, that's good enough for me. So yeah, I think I look at it being good enough rather than it being perfect, which is very hard when you've got an eating disorder, because certainly for me, a lot of my eating disorder comes around like perfection and getting everything like just right. So this has been quite a step for me to get to this point, I think, but I'm kind of glad that I have. And yeah, it's just meant that I'm not like looking for the answers all the time, and I'm not looking for someone else to fix me. I guess I take responsibility for kind of my own thoughts and my own actions, and yeah, that's where I've got to. yeah, I don't know if this has just been a big ramble and it hasn't made any sense. I hope it's just kind of giving you my perspective of dealing with an eating disorder, and especially one that's kind of gone on for quite a long time. And I hope it might give you a bit of hope in a kind of roundabout way. Not that I'm not saying you're never going to recover, but like that's definitely not what I'm saying. Just that it can give you a bit of hope that even when you've had an eating disorder for a long time, you can still get to a point when you feel a little bit more at peace with yourself. Like I still don't like the way I look. I still criticize every like photo of myself, and if I go to try some clothes on, I still automatically pick up the bits that I don't like, and it's something that I'm trying to work on. But I am better than I was, and that's really hard to admit for some reason. But yeah, I just hope that maybe it's helped somebody to kind of hear my story. So yeah, as I mentioned, that it's Eating Disorders Awareness Week this week, and Beat, they do like a campaign every year, and this year their campaign is Why Wait? Basically they're saying, you know, why should we wait for eating disorder treatment? I think they said that people wait like 3 years before they access treatment, and I feel like that's partly down to the person not either recognising it or not wanting to access treatment, but also partly because there just isn't enough treatment available. But yeah, I hope that maybe this will raise a bit more awareness, show you that, you know, you can and you should get treatment early, because it's so important. Like, I do think that maybe if I'd access to the right treatment at the right time, that things wouldn't have got as bad as they had, and maybe wouldn't have gone on for as long as they had. So, you know, if you are struggling with food, talk to somebody and access some support. And I know it is so hard to admit that you have a problem, especially when, you know, you're really scared because you think people are either going to make you put on weight, or they're going to stop you from like engaging in behaviours that you feel help you cope. But it is no way to live a life. And, you know, I know from like years and years of experience that I think I am happier now that I'm in control than I was back then. Like, back then I thought I was happier, and I thought that having my eating disorder helped me, but it doesn't. And, you know, even if you can't recover completely, there is still a better place that you can get to than where you are now. So yeah, please check out the information in the description bar below if you feel like you might want to just talk to somebody. Beat are brilliant, they have like a helpline and everything. So even if you just chat to them, doesn't mean you have to do anything, but just having that first initial chat is so important. I really hope you have found this helpful, and please let me know if you'd like to see any more videos like this. If there's any like specific videos that you would like to see, please comment. And also if you've had like any kind of eating disorders experience, like comment down below, and like I'd love to like chat to you a bit more about that kind of thing. There's also a little notification button if you want to press that to hear more, like to get updated more when I upload new videos. And if you could like and subscribe to my channel as well, I would be really appreciative of that. And until next time, I will say goodbye. Bye.